a stereotype, right? If you've ever met a Labrador Retriever, you've probably thought they're basically walking stomachs, always begging, always sniffing for crumbs, always hungry. We usually just chalk it up to their goofy, food-loving personalities. But what if there's something way deeper going on? What if that bottomless pit feeling is literally written into their DNA? Well, let's get into it. It's a question that pretty much every lab owner has asked themselves, probably while staring into a pair of very convincing puppy dog eyes. We're going to unpack the real science behind that unbelievable drive for food, and I promise it's a genetic story that's going to change how you see that hungry dog forever. This quote from Dr. Eleanor Raffin, who is one of the lead researchers in this whole field, really gets to the heart of it. For so long, the conversation has been about blaming owners, right? But this shifts the focus to a fascinating biological reason. This isn't just about a lack of willpower. It's about how they're wired. So our scientific detective story really kicks off with the discovery of the first major genetic suspect, a single gene that completely changed how we think about obesity in dogs, and, as you'll see, maybe even in ourselves. All right, the gene at the center of this whole mystery is called POMC. Now, just think of it as the master control switch in the brain for all things hunger and energy. It's responsible for sending out the signals that tell the body, hey, you're full, or nope, time to eat. It's absolutely critical. And the story of this gene has been unfolding for almost a decade now. It all started back in 2016 when scientists first found the link. Then, in 2024, the case was blown wide open when they figured out its full effect. And just when they thought they had it figured out, in 2025, the plot thickened with a whole new cast of genetic characters. So you might be wondering, how common is this genetic quirk? Well, it's actually incredibly common in labs. Get this. About 1 in every 4 Labrador Retrievers carries the specific mutation in the POMC gene. 1 in 4. That is a huge slice of the entire breed. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. This one little mutation doesn't just create one problem, it creates 2. The scientists who discovered it call it a double whammy. And honestly, it perfectly explains the struggle that so many of these dogs and their owners go through. So the first punch in this 1-2 combo is a feeling of constant hunger. You see, that broken POMC gene messes up the brain's ability to get the "I'm full" message. So even after they've eaten a full meal, these dogs just feel hungrier than dogs without the mutation. Their brain is basically lying to their stomach. But how could they possibly prove that? Well, with a pretty clever experiment called the sausage in a box test. Here's how it worked. They fed all the dogs a normal breakfast. Then, a few hours later, they put a sausage in a clear box. The dogs could see it, they could smell it, but they couldn't get to it. And the results were clear. The dogs with that POMC mutation tried way harder to get that sausage. It was proof positive they were feeling much hungrier. But feeling hungry all the time is only half the battle. The second part of this double whammy is the one that's totally invisible, and it makes managing their weight even trickier. The research uncovered something pretty shocking. These dogs also have a slower metabolism. When they're just lying around doing nothing, they burn about 25% fewer calories than other labs. Now think about that. Not only do they want to eat more all the time, they actually need to eat less just to stay at a healthy weight. It's a brutal combination. So for a while there, it really looked like POMC was the main villain in our story. But, science never really stops with just one answer. More recent studies have revealed that POMC isn't acting alone, which of course leads to the big question, is it all just about POMC? Well, a 2025 study gave a definitive answer. Nope, not even close. Turns out this genetic conspiracy goes a whole lot deeper. So, using this super powerful technique, you can think of it like a genetic treasure map. Scientists scanned the entire DNA of hundreds of labs. And they didn't just find one new gene. They found a bunch of different genetic hotspots that were all strongly connected to obesity. And the biggest new link they uncovered was a gene called DENDN1B. For every single copy of a variant in this gene a dog had, it was linked to about an 8% increase in body fat. That's huge. This just proved that the genetic risk for labs is really complex, involving a whole team of different genes. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is super interesting for dog people, but what does it have to do with me? Well, this is where the story takes a really surprising turn and becomes incredibly relevant for all of us. You see, this research wasn't done on just a few dozen dogs in a lab. It was backed up by massive amounts of data from thousands of pets, including from huge projects like the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study. And that kind of scale gives these findings some serious weight. It means this is a real biological pattern, not just some random coincidence. And here it is, the truly mind-blowing part. It turns out that the top 5 obesity genes they found in Labradors are also linked to obesity in people. And remember that really powerful gene, DENN1B? It's also connected to body mass index, or BMI, in humans. This is huge. It shows that our dogs, who literally share our homes and our environment, are an amazing way to help us understand the complex genetics of weight in our own species. So we've laid out this pretty compelling case for a strong genetic push towards hunger and weight gain. But this story has one last, and I think most important twist. And it's an empowering one, because it shows that our biology isn't necessarily our destiny. This slide illustrates it perfectly. It's all about something called gene-environment interaction. What the research proved is that a dog with a high genetic risk for obesity could still be kept perfectly lean and healthy, but only if their owners were really diligent about management. We're talking strict portion control and lots of exercise. On the flip side, a dog with low genetic risk could easily become overweight if the management was too relaxed. And this quote from Dr. Kelly Dial just sums it all up. Our understanding has shifted. We've moved away from simple blame and towards a more compassionate, scientific view that recognizes the very real biological hurdles that some dogs, and some of us, have to clear. So, in the end, this isn't a story about being doomed by your genes. It's really a story about understanding. It shows that while genetics might deal you a really tough hand, it's our conscious choices and our management that give us the power to play those cards well. So it leaves us with a question, and not just for dog owners, but for everyone. Genetics may deal the hand, but how are you going to play the cards?